This is not and will not be America's fight alone.
Our job is to find enough common ground.
Yeah, I'm a kid from Akron, Ohio.
Make history.
Why is success?
I had no knowledge.
I'm going to decide when it feels right.
Everybody! Hey! That was the worst prep round ever. It's good. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Yes. Sit down. Thank you. And welcome to the first ever HuffPost Show. Yes. It's our not that reverent look at the most compelling stories from the week. I'm Roy Seekoff. This is my partner in crime, Mr. Mark Lamont Hill. Thank you. And they're getting warmed up. They're getting warmed up. We are coming to you live, all the way live from our LA studio.
And we've got a great show for you tonight. It's one that, like the Huffington Post, we hope will enlighten you, inform you, and entertain you.
So as the founding editor of HuffPost, I've always thought of the front page as a one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in the world.
Right. Our goal is to have the same purpose for the show. We want to cover everything from serious news to, let's just say, lighter stuff.
Yeah. As we like to say around the halls of the Huffington Post, come for the immigration debate, stay for the Kardashians.
All right, well, tonight we're going to have Senator Elizabeth Warren joining us shortly. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
See, they love her.
Yeah.
They love her.
Us, not so much.
Not so much. We also have Notaro and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar here to talk about some important stuff. Yeah?
But first, we want to kick things off with a new segment. I guess they're all new. It's a new show, which we are calling This Week In, in which we highlight some of the fanatics, the fools, the morons, and the miscreants who caught our attention this week.
All right. This week in the nanny caliphate. The leaders of ISIS are having a hard time enforcing the group's ban on smoking in the parts of Iraq that they control. Despite the threat of fines, flogging, and prison time, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi smokers are still finding ways to surreptitiously light up. Who knew the success of a caliphate would depend so easily and so much on Nicorette?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Roy, help me understand this, right? ISIS has set people on fire. They've pushed people off of buildings. They've cut people's heads off. People are still kind of unsure about ISIS. The moment they take away their camels, they're suddenly like, no, these guys are bad.
It's a weird line to draw. Yeah.
What's that about?
I was like, throwing people off the buildings. Beheadings. Must smokes? Hell no.
Right.
Yeah, it's the nicotine revolution.
That's what it feels like.
It'll be one of these. This will be their.
That's what it feels like.
I think, this is, what the interesting thing is, they're about to do something that I didn't think would be possible. Make America not the worst person in Iraq.
Yeah,
exactly.
You might be right.
So I think this needs to be the new policy. Instead of drones, we should be like airlifting in Marlboros. Change the whole thing.
It might work.
Yeah.
Why is ISIS being so lenient now? Usually they're pretty strict. I mean, to say the least, ISIS is pretty strict about things, right? But it's like they're letting smokers come in, they're letting cigarettes come in, and then they're banning it on the other side.
There's a financial side to this. How shocking, because what actually they've started to levy fines, and they're fining the smokers and they're fining the smugglers. So really what they're doing is they've created these laws, which are sort of artificial, and then they're making money off of it, kind of like, I don't know, the Justice Department said Ferguson was doing.
Exactly.
That's
not a bad comparison there.
Yeah.
No, but the other thing about ISIS, I think, is that they might actually be right on this point.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, smoking's bad.
Okay. Headline. Mark Lamont Hill agrees with ISIS. Right across the top of the page.
Yeah. Hey, whatever. When they're right, they're right. Look, but smoking is annoying as hell, and you get cancer from it. They're trying to kill. You can't have a caliphate everybody has cancer, right? I mean, you need some healthy people.
So you're saying ISIS in some ways is like Mayor Bloomberg?
Yes. So ISIS is like Mayor Bloomberg. ISIS, I agree with.
There's a lot of things like that. But here's the other thing that I think they're finding out. They're finding out, like America, we came in, it was easy enough for us to take over Iraq, but hard to win the hearts and minds.
Yes.
And I think they're finding the same thing. It's kind of like when you have kids and your parents are like, now you know. Now you know, my friend. Sure, go, enjoy. Run the caliphate.
He just compared his mama to ISIS. I just want to point that out.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to another one. We get in more trouble.
Yes. Next up, this week in prison profiteering. The New York Times reported that providing phone services in our nation's prison has become a billion-dollar industry. With calls costing more than $1 a minute, families can expect to spend thousands of dollars a year just to maintain regular contact with an imprisoned loved one. This is why prison phone sex usually starts with, "Tell me what you're wearing," but don't get too specific. Yeah. So, Mark, here's the thing. With prisoners now...
That's exactly how my prison phone sex goes.
Exactly. Very quick. I've heard that. So this is sort of the question. With prisons now a profit center, has the idea of rehabilitation just gone out the window?
Well, rehabilitation hasn't been part of prison forever.
Centuries.
Right, for centuries. But now it's not about rehabilitation. It's also about exploitation. They're literally making hundreds of dollars for every dollar they should be making on this. A phone call should only cost 5 cents. Instead, it's costing 120 cents for a phone call. It's like the old cell phone companies when you were like the only guy with the cell phone, they would charge like $1,000 an hour for a call just because they could.
Yeah, right. They don't get the pay phones anymore. They have to get revenue from somewhere.
Right, and that's what they're doing with prisoners now.
The really pernicious thing, though, is that study after study after study has shown that the things that help rehabilitation, that help when prisoners leave, is that connection with the family. Right. That's what cuts recidivism rates. Yeah. So now they don't give a shit about that.
Because the money's not in stopping recidivism. The money is in people going back to prison. They want as many things as possible getting people back to prison. I am pro-union. I'm as pro-union as anybody else. But the prison unions right now are doubling down on incarceration stuff because that keeps them employed as well.
Yeah, we've seen this in California, particularly the prison guard union, one of the strongest political forces, right? They're the ones who want to keep people in jail. 3 strikes. You know, more and more things give you a life sentence. Yeah. No. Why would you go to rehab for drugs when we can keep you in jail? Yeah. So in a way, it's crime has become a jobs program.
That's right. The only jobs program we've invested in is prisons. The only public housing we've invested in is prisons. Prison has pretty much become the answer for everything these days.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of envisioning this weird future because some states charge so much and some states start to live. Maybe we're going to have like crime tourism, you know? We can see these commercials kind of like for Sprint. No, don't commit your crime there. Do it in New York for the frugal criminal.
All right. This week in faculty felonies, 11 elementary and middle school teachers and principals in Atlanta were convicted of conspiring to change student answers on standardized tests. They were prosecuted under the RICO racketeering statute, and they now face up to 20 years in federal prison. This is clearly a sign of the times. Back when I was in school, we did our own cheating for ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but what's the point of blaming teachers when this whole system must be broken?
For me, the thing is that the overcharging, I mean, RICO is what you use for, like, John Gotti, the Hells Angels, not Mrs. Schwartzberg, your third-grade homeroom teacher. You know, It seems like too much.
It is way too much. Yeah. And again, it ignores the problem. When tests are used to measure achievement, that's cool. But now tests are the achievement. All we do is test everybody. We test everybody just to make sure we're beating Lithuanian reading. Or
you don't want to be number 37.
No one wants to be number 37.
Always worse.
Right. So we just test everybody, and by testing everybody, we become obsessed with it. We tie people's jobs to it. We tie people's futures to it. We tie the funding of schools to it. So now everybody feels the need to cheat. I'm not excusing cheating. Don't cheat on your tests. But this is not the way to go.
And these tests are so out of context. I mean, many times these are the poorest neighborhoods, right? Yeah. So they don't have breakfast. They don't have parents to read to them. You know, they come in really ill-prepared, and then they expect the teachers to work miracles. It's like, you know, it's like giving a doctor a patient with stage 4 cancer and saying, how come you didn't cure him?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Teachers in Georgia make about $33,000 a year on average. And the bonuses are like $10,000 a year on average. So if you made $33,000 a year, you might cheat too. If we paid teachers what they were worth and what they deserved, we probably wouldn't have $10,000. And
not only that, it's $28,000 a year to keep them in prison.
Exactly.
So where's the RICO statutes from the bankers? You know, you're not finding that. So is that the message that we're giving to kids? You know, if you cheat really big.
Set the bar high.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on.
And finally, this week in pro-life quackery, Arizona became the first state to pass a law requiring doctors who administer drug-induced abortions to tell women that the procedure may be reversible, an assertion that most doctors say is wrong. A second law requiring doctors to force women seeking an abortion to go shopping for cute onesies is still being debated. So help me out, Mark. Yeah, I don't really understand this. I know the people creating these laws are virulently anti-abortion. And yet it seems to me that if you said to me, hey, you can get a do-over halfway through, I'd be more likely to get an abortion.
Right, it seems counterintuitive. Because it's not for the people who are considering an abortion. They have all kinds of stuff. They make a whole obstacle course for people to not get abortions. They make you have to look at a sonogram. They make you have to sign a waiver. They make you look at a video. They make you do all, they damn near make you name the kid before that you even get to the abortion clinic. Yeah. They don't want you to have an abortion. But if you happen to make it to the abortion clinic and you get one abortion pill in your system, they're saying, wait a minute, stop. We got this guy that might be able to reverse this for you. Yeah. And the problem is, we don't even know if it works. This isn't like real science.
Well, that's the other thing. This is all based on the findings of one doctor. Let's name him, shall we? George Delgado. Hello, Dr. Delgado.
We see you, sir.
Yeah, he's from San Diego, and he tried this on a few patients. There's no scientific study, no peer review, but the anti-abortion crowd has embraced this guy, and they're trying to use this as a test case in Arizona, and you know, they're thinking, let's give this a shot, and oh yeah, if we have to use the women as guinea pigs, so be it.
Well, that's what pisses me off. It's like you guys act as if you are so supportive of life and so protective of life that you don't believe in any sort of abortion, but then you're willing to use these women as test dummies, and you're willing to have a woman take half of an abortion pill, which dramatically increases the chances that the fetus will come out like George Bush.
Oh, yeah, and here's the question. Here's the question. Can you think of any other medical procedure where halfway through they ask you if you're sure? It's like, Mr. Seekoff, about that circumcision, you know, not so sure. Yeah. Anyway, those were some of the stories making news this week. Now here is a look back at one that has officially reached its cultural relevance expiration date.
I'm just gonna donate, guys.
Yeah, Mark, you know, I think we should pour one out for the homies.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. There you go, man.
R.I.P. to the ALS Challenge. All right, but now it's time for our weekly Q&A. Yes, Q&A. Yes. We're going to be asking the Q's, and the A's are going to come courtesy of our first ever HuffPost Show guest.
Yeah, when we decided to do the show, we drew up a list of people we wanted, and our next guest was right near the top, just after Elvis, and he wasn't returning our calls. So this is the way we went.
So we're thrilled now to bring out one of the bright lights of American politics, the senior senator from Massachusetts and the author of the New York Times best-selling A Fighting Chance, which is now out in paperback. Thank you, Roy. Let's give a nice, warm HuffPost Show welcome for Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Yes!
All right.
How are you?
Oh, it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Please have a seat.
All right.
Fantastic. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys got it all here.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Real leather?
Yes. This is the real thing.
Okay.
We're fake, but that's real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not Naugahyde.
Not Naugahyde. We brought the
just
real
wanna
thing.
know.
Now,
Okay.
Senator, I got to tell you, when we told people around the office that you were going to be our first guest, the words we heard were like, my hero, my idol, the only politician who gives me goosebumps. I mean, really, you're a political rock star. So not that long ago, you were a law school professor. What does that do to one's brain to suddenly become a political rock star and get that kind of reception?
You know, the way I see it, I'm just doing the work I've been doing pretty much all of my grown-up life. And it pretty much grows out of what happened to me as a kid. Yeah. This is just one more place with one more set of tools to try to fight for the things I believe in. So, you know, it's kind of, you get up every day and you think, what can I do today to try to move the needle a little bit in the direction of, like I describe it in the book, giving our kids a fighting chance.
Absolutely. You mentioned the yes.
That's what it's. Oh, that's nice.
You talk about the book, and the book for me, is very compelling because you really mix the personal with the political. You talk about how your mission as an activist and as a politician is directly connected to your experiences growing up.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is for me. I mean, I wouldn't know how to separate those things. It's like separating part of who you are. You know, I start this book when I'm 12 years old, and I describe it as the day I grew up. And it was, I'd grown up in a family that had had a lot of ups and downs financially. And my three older brothers are all off in the military. It's my mom and my dad. My dad's selling carpet. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. And my daddy had a heart attack. And it meant for our family what it means for a lot of families. There's no money coming in. The bills pile up. We lost the family station wagon, and we're about that far from losing our house. And I remember, you know, my parents, they're fighting. My mom's crying. This is going on for a long time. And finally, the day comes when I walk upstairs, and my mom's got her best dress out on the bed. Yeah. God bless her. And she's crying. She's talking to herself. She says, "We are not going to lose this house." And she picks this dress up, and I'm trying to think, what's she doing with this dress out? I'm 12 years old, and this is the dress she wore to funerals. That's how I remember this dress. And she pulls this dress on. It's tight. She zips it up, and she puts on her high heels. She blows her nose, wipes her face, and she walks over to the Sears, and she gets a minimum wage job. And that minimum wage job saved our house, and it saved our family. And I always think of this as I am deeply grateful to have grown up in an America at a time when a minimum wage job would support a family of three. That was when we said this is important. And it starts there for me.
And the story, fighting is the right word, because, I mean, you've had to fight all your life. I mean, your mom didn't really want you to go to college. No. She thought you should stay home and have babies, do some of that.
And I want to say, not because my mom didn't want me to do the best I could. She just wanted me to be safe. Yeah. And my mom thought the best way a woman can be safe is she stays home. She marries a good provider.
Safe
God, did
what?
I hear that word.
You say safe. Safe from what?
Safe from having to put on your high heels and walk to the Sears and get a minimum wage job to save the house.
But even when you got married, right, you had the sort of the similar thing with your husband, and you said, I don't really want to stay in the kitchen. And in a way, you say in the book that this sort of broke up your first marriage, right?
Yeah. You know, I was married at 19. And, and I think both my first husband and I were kind of surprised that by the time I was in my late 20s, I just wasn't the girl that he had married. And I was somebody else. I always want to say, I tried. I really did. I tried to stay home. I tried to cook. I set the kitchen on fire more than once.
Multiple fires.
Well, one year my daddy actually gave me a fire extinguisher for Christmas. It was a bad sign.
Yeah, when the fire department knows you, but hi,
That's
Elizabeth.
Right. How you doing?
Not a good sign.
How's it going? It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
But I did try, and it just, I just needed to do more and more pieces. And I grew up at a time things were opening up for women. And so I ended up, you know, I wanted to be a school teacher. And I ended up, after that, after Amelia was born, she's 2 years old, I headed off to law school. I mean, it was like the craziest thing in the world that I would go off to law school. But there were two things about it. One was there was a public law school nearby, Rutgers, God bless them, tuition less than $500 a semester.
$500 a semester.
Wow.
A time again when America was investing in opportunities for kids. And Amelia and I, we both had backpacks. And every morning we get up, we both put our little backpacks on. And I drop her off with the babysitter. And I'd go in and go to classes. And then I'd pick her up from the babysitter after I'd had my classes. And the key thing, any working parent will remember this one, was to keep her awake until we got home so I could put her down for a nap so I could study while she had
You can't blow the nap time in the car.
That's right. It's about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I'm shaking her foot while I'm driving. I learned to drive a VW Beetle. I could drive it, shake the baby's foot, and shift all at once. It was a stick shift.
Wow.
But we did it. And she and I were buds. And then her little brother came along, and, you know, the three of us did it. And it really is a kind of over and over. You know, my daddy ended up as a janitor. My mom worked that minimum wage job at Sears. I got to be a teacher. I then got to go to law school and be a lawyer. I got to be a professor, and I got to be a United States Senator. America's truly a great country. Yeah. I believe that. But I also never, ever forget, I grew up in an America that was investing in our kids, investing in the future, investing in opportunities. I got those things because America made sure that a minimum wage job would support a family of three, that there were public universities that were available to kids who didn't have a lot of money, that we were investing in an economy that was growing and creating jobs and opportunities for kids. And we've lost a big part of that. So for me...
Why have we lost that? Why have we lost that?
Oh, because I think we turned in a different direction. I'll describe it this way, just kind of the brief version. Yeah. Basically, from the Great Depression to about 1980, our vision of how we build a future was, we said, first of all, there has to be a cop on the beat, not only on Main Street, but also on Wall Street. Level playing field. The second thing we said is we're going to invest in the future for our kids. Education, roads, bridges, power grids, the whole infrastructure. And third, we're going to build a big pipeline of ideas. We're going to invest in research and medical research and scientific research and engineering research, because that way our kids, shoot, they'll invent things we haven't even dreamed of. We did that from about 1935 to about 1980, and here's the deal. Man, it worked. Yeah. As our families got richer, our GDP went up. As our GDP went up, median family income went up. The 90% in America, not the top 10, the 90% got 70% of all of the wage growth in that time. We did better as a people. Then starting about 1980, you know what happened then?
What happened in 1980? What was that? It's a weird year. The Olympics, it was the Olympics, the boycott. That boycott ruined everything.
Killed the thing.
Yeah.
So you start in 1980, roughly. I mean, some of this starts moving in a little early, a little later. But there's a different vision. The Republicans say, wait a minute, there's another way to build a future. And their idea for building a future is first, fire the cops, not on Main Street, but on Wall Street, and just turn those big financial institutions loose. Let them paint a bullseye on the backside of every American family and figure out how they can make profits from doing it. And the second thing is they said, let's cut taxes for those at the top. And what that meant is there was less money, you guessed it, for education, for roads and bridges, for research. And the future begins to shrink for our kids. And so let me do those same numbers again. 1980 to 2012, the 90% that had gotten 70% of the wage growth earlier, you know how much they got in that time period?
How much?
Zero.
Zero wage growth.
Wow.
None. 100% of the wage growth from 1980 to 2012 went to the top 10% of Americans. This country now works for the top 10%. It works for those who hire lobbyists. Yeah. It works for those who hire lawyers. It's just not working for American families.
You know, you're talking about Wall Street, as you are, you know, there's an amazing story here in the book. It strikes me that since the crash, Wall Street's never really lost its swagger, and if anything, they're more arrogant, and they have the "you can't touch us" attitude.
Yep.
And this is new to the paperback, and afterward, you tell the story of, let's say a discussion that you had with Jamie Dimon that turned into something a little bit more than that, that is emblematic of that. Could you tell us about that day?
So I'd been in the Senate for just a few weeks. Jamie Dimon comes by my office, and let's just say we get into a conversation about financial regulation. His point of view is there's too much. My point of view is there's too little, right? And we have a back and forth about it. It got a little heated. And at one point, I finally said to him in a fairly loud tone that I just think you guys are breaking the law on this particular point that we were talking about. And he relaxed, smiled, sat back, and said, so hit me with a fine. We can afford it.
Wow.
And
oh, my God.
But I want you to understand, this isn't just one person or one big financial institution, HSBC. Here is this giant bank that got caught laundering drug money. And they didn't get caught once laundering a dime bag of drug money. They got caught laundering it over years. In fact, their regulators said, whoa, you're laundering drug money. Stop doing that. and
Memo.
Right.
Memo, quit doing that. And they kept on doing it.
Wow.
They made money laundering drug money. Finally, after 6 years of doing this that we know of, they got hit, please, I'm glad you're sitting down, I want you to fall over, with a fine. And not one executive, not one employee got charged with breaking the law. They all went home, they slept well in their beds, and it's raises and bonuses all around.
Here's what I'm trying to understand, though, Senator. I mean, you said you had this conversation with Jamie Dimon a few weeks into your term as a senator. You have colleagues who've been in the Senate who are Democrats for term after term after term. You're one of the few people taking them on. How much of a challenge is it to take them on when both parties are backed by big money, both people seem to owe a debt to Wall Street, and both people are scared?
Well, you know, you ask it as how hard a challenge is. I mean, how can you not take them on? I don't know any other way to do this. I didn't run for the United States Senate so that I could try to make the lives of the biggest financial institutions even better. And look, I want to be clear about this. All I'm looking for, I just want two things from the biggest financial institutions in this country. The first one is don't cheat people. That's what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is.
Right.
You know,
just don't cheat them. No more of the tricks and traps buried in the fine print. No more not following the law on just the basic products you put out. Mortgages, credit cards, whatever it is. And the second thing is no more too big to fail. Don't wreck our economy. Those are the only two things I'm asking for from the biggest financial institutions in this country. And all I can say is they are still spending millions to fight back so that they don't get regulations, so there's no accountability. And that's what this is all about. They don't want any accountability. They want to go off and run their businesses the way they want to run them and say, hey, you know, we'll let you know how it works out.
I know there was a story this week that, you know, I mean, when you do things like you do, like going on the Senate floor and saying we need to break up Citibank, they say they're not that happy. And not only do they say they're not going to give you money, which is a given, they say they're not going to give it to any of your Democratic colleagues. So when that happens, I know you kind of say, yeah, but do they come to you? Do your colleagues come to you and say, Elizabeth, please, please.
You're killing me.
We need the money.
No, nobody has. Nobody has. But I do want to say this. I want you to think about the arrogance of big financial institutions saying to the other Democrats, shut that woman up. You know, just get her to just be quiet and stop giving us such a hard time. There's a chutzpah around that, that just really makes you say, we got a problem in this country, and it tells me that the problem is not just that Washington works for those who've got money and power, that it works for those who can hire lobbyists, but boy, those who have money and power expect it to work for them, and they're going to demand some accountability from our government rather than our government on behalf of the people demanding some accountability from the financial institutions.
Absolutely.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, they love you. They really do. They really do.
It's right.
Not too many politicians speak that honestly about any of this stuff. But let's move from domestic to foreign policy just for a moment, because this has obviously been a big week in Middle Eastern affairs in particular. We just signed in Iran, or we've reached an agreement on Iran, some sort of pact. What do you make of this pact? Because on the one hand, you have Netanyahu saying this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to the state of Israel, and you have the White House, which is saying this is a move forward to prevent violence and to really move the global community forward.
So look. I think everybody starts in the same place, and that is it's critically important that Iran not have a nuclear weapon, that would be a danger to Israel, it would be a danger to the region, it would be a danger to the world. And so we're looking for the right way to get there. I think that Secretary Kerry has really gotten out there and just done a really, really tough job and done it well to try to pull all this together to see if there isn't a way to get to a negotiated solution. Because here's the bottom line. Finding a negotiated solution, something that works, something that doesn't involve trusting, something that involves verifying that Iran is not moving toward developing a nuclear weapon, that is our best promise in the region. And so far, when everyone says, oh, I don't like this deal, not everyone, certainly, the people who do say it, the real question is, and what's the alternative here? What have you got as the next best move? So I'm cautiously hopeful on this. I want to see what comes out in the details. You know, we all know the devil's in the details.
Absolutely.
And Kerry himself has made clear it's possible it won't all work, that we won't get it all the way across the finish line. But, you know, there's some good signs at this point that there may be a negotiated solution here.
Wow. Should the Senate have to vote on this?
So at some point, the Senate will certainly be involved in it. But right now, we're in the position, the sanctions are in place, and the president has authority to work with those sanctions depending on what happens over time. So I think this is one that's going to evolve a little bit over time. But the Senate will certainly have. It already has had a role to play. You know,
some of that role, though, has been a little tricky. Let's talk to Senator Cotton for a minute.
Boy, I should say, but I do.
Write a little letter.
Yeah.
That's right. Boy.
Google Translate the Farsi. It works. It's very well, yeah.
But there is something to remember about this that in a larger global perspective, and that is that we saw sanctions really work. You know, we think about what are the tools in the toolbox? How is it that we try to have more security in the world? How is it that we try to make this world safer for ourselves, safer for our allies, safer for our good friends, safer for democracy? How do we do that? I think we have to pause for a minute and underline that we learn through this experience that economic sanctions, not just from the United States, but from the United States and countries all around the world, saying, you know, on that one we agree. Iran should not have nuclear sanctions, and countries all around the world are willing to enforce those sanctions. That's what brought Iran to the negotiating table, and that's what got us as far as we have gotten in the negotiations to this point. We want to keep that in mind going forward.
Now, Senator, I know with the book you've been touring a little bit this week. We saw you make some media appearances. And, you know, it seems to us that there is a certain question that is a zombie question that refuses to die. Let's take a look.
Are you going to run for president?
Buzz, 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 president, president, president.
There's nothing that could change.
If Hillary didn't run, you might give it a shot.
Why don't you want to run for president?
There's no way you're going to run in 2016.
I've heard you say no.
You constantly say you're not running for president. Does that mean you will not run for president?
Are you unequivocally and categorically saying, I'm not running for president in 2016?
I'm not running. I'm not running for president. Like I said, I'm not running for president. You can ask this a whole lot of different ways, but the key is I'm not running for president.
Possibly I'm beating a dead horse here.
Senator.
Why are you being so evasive?
Yes, the coyness.
I don't get it.
Yes, You know, no, but all kidding aside, you know, it's not just these journalists who are trying to get a headline. There is a movement, you know, where the Boston Globe had a very impassioned endorsement, and we know that Move On, you know, has Run Warren Run, hundreds of thousands of people signing the petition. You know, Larry Lessig wrote an open letter, and we actually asked people to send in questions on video and to our community, and one of them sent this in. If you're a movie fan, you might recognize this gentleman.
I wanted to ask you, on behalf of many, 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 many Americans, to reconsider running for president of the United States. There's not many people, politically speaking, that are willing to take on the battles that you are specifically, whether it's the debt, student debt, to the insidious and predatory practices of the banks. On behalf of the future generations of the United States, would you please, please not say no to running, at least being in a primary, and take your place, your rightful place in the history of this great nation.
Now, you know, he plays the Hulk. He plays the Hulk, and you know what they say about the Hulk? You don't want to see him mad, you know.
Yeah.
No, but putting that aside, there is this passion, and I think it speaks beyond just you running. It speaks to the idea that people have a longing, and they have a feeling that there's something that's not being discussed, that's missing from the political discourse in 2016. So, not talking about you in specific, but what can we do to harness that energy, that passion, that longing?
So, you know, this is something I talk about in my book, A Fighting Chance. I talk about how I came to the fight and the different ways I learned to fight. And now the good people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have sent me to Washington, and I now have a whole new set of tools to fight with. The way I see this is that we have to fight around a set of issues, and that we can't wait. This is about building a future. Student loans. You know, it is obscene that the United States government is making billions of dollars in profits off the backs of our kids. We need to refinance our student loan debt down for our students. We just need to do it. And bear with me for just a minute, because we got to talk about these. We need to have equal pay for equal work. It's time to pass an equal pay for equal work statute in this Senate. And House. No one should work full-time and still live in poverty. We need to raise the minimum wage. We can't have a minimum wage where people work full-time and still live in poverty. We need to protect Social Security going forward and expand Social Security. We know key pieces. We need to hold Wall Street accountable.
You know, this would make a great campaign platform. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
But this is what we all need to step up and make our voices heard on.
Why is there no mainstream voice doing that? I mean, this seems like what would normally be a Democratic platform, but it seems like every election cycle, fewer and fewer prominent Democrats are making the case for these things.
You know, now there I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Democrats are stepping up and talking about this, and I want to do this both ways. Partly, look at some of my Senate colleagues. Look, I know everyone talks about we got beaten bad in 2014, but I want to remind you where we didn't get beaten bad. That Jeff Merkley stepped up early. Remember how he was supposed to be in trouble on that race in Oregon? Yeah. Some people said, now the pundits, but he stepped up and said, I'm proud of what I stand for. He ran those ads on student loans, right? He talked about minimum wage. He talked about Social Security. Al Franken. There was a question around Al Franken. Remember how close he was that first time around? This time, he had that race put away months ahead. Why? He put it away because he got out there and he stood up for what he believed in. He said so to the people of Minnesota, and they said, that's right, I'm with this guy. So it's partly, we got folks in the Senate standing up. Jean Shaheen, boy, she made a strong case and beat that guy. But it's also the rest of the world. You know, Washington truly is a bubble. And what really matters, if we really want to see change, it's going to be change that's going to come in large part from the outside, from enough people around this country saying, this matters to me, and I'm going to hold Washington accountable. Look at the example. The Republicans shut down the government. And people across this country said, no, that is wrong. We want our government up and running. And you guys back down. And in fact, that's what the Republicans did. They had to back down on that. Student loans. A couple of years ago, who was talking about student loans? Who was talking about the obscene profits that the government was making? And today, people all around the country are talking about it. People have signed petitions. Go to, right? ElizabethWarren.com. We've got a petition on our website on this. People are engaged in it. And I'm not talking about a handful. I'm talking about literally hundreds of thousands of people have put their shoulder behind, I'm willing to step up. I'll put my name on a petition. You think it doesn't matter to put your name on a petition? It does matter. People in Washington pay attention to this. I'm willing to make calls. I'm willing to write emails. I'm willing to show up when that guy who says he represents my state but he's willing to take care of billionaires and not take care of people who are trying to get an education. I'm willing to stand up and ask a question the next time he shows up for a town forum. I'm willing to go to his office and ask him a question. That's how we're going to get change. We don't get it in a single day. We don't get it in a single week. We don't get it with a single voice. We get it by making each other stronger because we believe that when we work together, we will build a better future for ourselves, for our children, and for our grandchildren. That's what it's about.
Senator Warren, we know that you're out here visiting your family for the holidays. We can't thank you enough for coming by. Everybody, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You guys are fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Right
what
this way.
fun.
Thank you.
Senator Warren's book, A Fighting Chance, is available now in paperback. Okay, up next, we want you to watch this.
Dickopedia, a wiki of dicks. Today's entry, Mitch McConnell. Addison Mitchell Mitch McConnell Jr. is a lawyer, the senior U.S. Senator from Kentucky, the new Senate Majority Leader, and a dick. Elected to the Senate in 1984, McConnell quickly staked out his position as Big Tobacco's big dick, partnering with industry lawyers to help write a bill that would have protected cigarette companies from lawsuits. They were very appreciative. Here are actual notes from McConnell and his staff to tobacco lobbyists, thanking them for various gifts, including a beautiful ham, delicious pecan candies, luscious citrus fruit, and tickets to a Ringo Starr concert. But the biggest payoff came in campaign cash. After he dickishly helped kill a proposal to curb youth smoking, Philip Morris rewarded McConnell with $150,000 in donations to Republican senators. In the late 1990s, McConnell offered a rousing display of dick philanthropy when he established a University of Louisville scholarship in his name, but insisted that women could only qualify if they pledged to never have a child out of wedlock. McConnell's dick moves extend to foreign policy. In private meetings with President George W. Bush in 2006, McConnell urged Bush to bring home a significant number of troops from Iraq. He made this request, not on the grounds that it would save soldiers' lives, but because not doing so would damage Republicans in the midterm elections. McConnell's flair for being a hypocritical dick is evident in his shifting stance on campaign finance reform. For many years, he passionately argued for full public disclosure of political donations. But after Citizens United opened the dark money floodgates, he happily set aside a cause he championed for 20 years and blocked legislation requiring big corporate donors to disclose their campaign contributions. Then, in December 2012, he achieved a rare pinnacle of dickery when he ended up filibustering a bill he himself had sponsored. McConnell seriously boosted his dick cred last summer at a ceremony honoring the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, when a group of congressional leaders linked arms to sing "We Shall Overcome," and Mitch offered his trademark dickish enthusiasm. Of course, lifelong dick behavior comes at a price, apparently around $75,000. That's the amount McConnell's most recent campaign had to spend on airfare, meals, and lodging to get people to attend his campaign events and, quote, contribute to an enthusiastic atmosphere.
We had some staff people, staffing the events, the sound system and that sort of thing.
Perhaps McConnell's greatest claim to dick fame is the way he has unrelentingly used his mastery of Senate tactics to obstruct President Obama at every turn, taking dickish delight in proclaiming,
I've been a proud guardian of gridlock.
And demonstrating that even at 72, he hasn't lost a dick step. McConnell, a 30-year veteran of the Senate and one of the true power brokers in D.C., ran for re-election last year as an outsider.
The change agent in this race is me.
And it fucking worked. Given all this, one could well conclude that Mitch McConnell is a complete and total dick, in which case, one would be absolutely right. What a dick.
I'm Mitch McConnell, and I approve this message.
I gotta say, that graphic makes me very happy and a little envious. I'm just saying.
Speak for yourself, sir. All right. It's time to introduce this week's panelists. First up, you might know him for his role as co-pilot Murdoch in the movie Airplane. He's also the author of numerous books, including the latest, Stealing the Game. And he was pretty good at basketball, too. Everybody, warm round of applause for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
She is a sharp-eyed stand-up with a chart-topping podcast. In her new special, Knock Knock, it's Tig Notaro, airs on Showtime on April 17th. Let's hear it for, that's right, Tig Notaro, everybody. Thanks for joining us, first of all. And I got to say, there was a lot of stories that attracted interest on HuffPost this week, none more so than the continuing drama around Indiana's religious freedom law.
Yes.
It started off with the signing, and then we had the backlash, and then we had the latest, which was this face-saving amendment, which basically took away and said they couldn't discriminate, which was the whole point of the law in the first place.
Exactly. I think it's now called the Please Don't Take Our Convention Center Money Away From Us bill.
Yeah, I think that's the official name.
It's a really, really tough situation right now because so much is happening with this law. So many things are being said. But, Kareem, you wrote a piece that I thought was really interesting. You said that this law in Indiana at the time was almost like instituting Sharia law in America.
Well, it would be the same thing because they're creating a situation where you have to be negative about people exercising their rights. You have to force into law things that don't allow people their free expression. And what's that all about? You know, that's tyranny, and we don't need that.
And it's dangerous. I mean,
it's
pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah. So, Tig, though, is there maybe a silver lining? Because the way I'm looking at it is this: the backlash was so intense and it was so quick. I think how much we've changed. 2004, all those states voted against marriage equality, and then here we are, just 10 years later, and it wasn't just gay activists. It was companies like Walmart and Apple standing up and saying, no, this is not going to stand. So, do you feel heartened by that part of it, at least?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it goes to show the importance of people coming out, even though I think that everyone needs to in their own time, in their own way, but it shows the power of when a neighbor or family member, somebody knows somebody that's gay, it keeps, there's a domino effect of acceptance. It becomes weird when you aren't accepting.
Does this feel like the last gasp, sort of like they're going down for the last time,
I was struck by the number of people who were like legislators. I remember there was one legislator whose nephew, I think, was going to marry another man, and he decided that he had to change his attitude about it because this is somebody that he loved and respected. Yeah. And finally, he got it. So I think that as people, their ability to understand that these people are family, even though they are different, they are still family, and we have to treat them with a certain amount of respect.
Famously, Dick Cheney even changed his views.
That's the one thing he's like.
The one good thing that he did.
What I wonder about, though, is this idea that every time a white male, straight Protestant loses something, they act like the sky is falling, like their whole world is being destroyed. Like 80% of America is still like Christian, and yet they're acting as if Christians are suddenly the religious oppressed minority in this country. How does that happen? What's going on? Roy, you're a rich white man.
Yeah, wait.
Why are you so damn mad?
I'm mistaken for a rich white man.
Don't steal my Christmas. I don't like it when you steal Christmas. And I don't want to sell you pizza. No, but is this sort of a strange thing, this victimization of the majority?
I think it's people regretting the loss of an illusion. There was an illusion that everybody was straight and nobody was gay for a long time. I remember back in the 50s, nobody gay, maybe there's, who was on TV? Liberace, maybe? I don't know. But
maybe Liberace.
That was about it.
But he wasn't even out of the closet. He was just on TV with
and comic relief.
Yeah.
Relief. He was something that people laughed at him, secretly, and they say, and it was a wink and nod, and that's dead now. Yeah. So I think that's really what's happened. People are starting to deal with reality, and that's good. We have to deal with reality and understand people for who they are and allow them to be who they are.
I still do find it a little scary, though. So, there was that story about the pizza owner who wouldn't sell pizza to the gay couple and had to close the shop. And then somebody started like a Kickstarter campaign, and they've already made $500,000. So is this sort of like, you know, all the angry, aggrieved Christian people going, oh, we're going to show them, we're going to give them money?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's what they do.
Does that scare you? $500,000?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so odd to think at what when you're denying people services based on who they are. It's like you're removing their homes, food. It's sickening. You know, it's what's that?
You know, they don't want to serve at a wedding, and I wonder, you know, how many people want pizza at their wedding anyway? You know.
But I mean, is there an argument? And again, I am not in support of this argument, but they could make the case that their particular understanding of their faith is that they're not supposed to support gay wedding, and so they're like, I don't want to be a part of it. It's one thing to serve you pizza at the game; it's another thing to serve it at a wedding.
But what I don't get, like a florist won't want to give a gay couple flowers. What's that all about? I mean that's just using your bias, using your ability to affect these people and inflicting your bias on them, and you know, giving them a few.
No, I agree. I guess what I'm asking is, do they have their are these bad people who are just trying to be using religion as an excuse to be discriminatory, or do they actually just have their religion wrong? Or are they just reading the world wrong?
I'm more interested if the florist is straight.
That's a good point.
What happened there?
Yeah. That seems like the easy zone. Like, we could definitely get our flowers. The pizza, I can see the pizza. You know, when you peek behind the curtain, okay, well.
Kareem, you know, so interestingly enough, the Final Four is this weekend in Indiana.
Right.
Do you think the NCAA should have said we're going to move it, or was that a bridge too far?
I don't think it was a bridge too far. They raised their voice, and that was a good thing. I thought they have gay athletes that they have to represent, and I'm glad they raised their voice, because athletics are for everybody, not just for straight people. So you know, the fact that in the realm of sports you could discriminate like that, people don't like that, and it really made the people in Indiana think, and I'm glad that the thought process is starting to catch on.
If you were
I was worried there for a while.
If you were playing in the Final Four, if you were an athlete in the Final Four right now, would you play in the game?
It all depends on, you know, how I would interpret their attempt to remedy what they did and said.
So what other stories were in the news?
Yeah, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Angelina Jolie. She made the news this week. She made her first public appearance since revealing that she'd undergone preventative surgery to have her ovaries and her fallopian tubes removed. She had gotten an inflammatory marker that suggested that she could have cancer, and so she just got everything taken care of through a surgical procedure. And you two are both cancer survivors. Yes. What does it mean for someone to go public with this type of information?
Those genetic markers are very accurate. They're finding out now a lot of things about various cancers, and genetic markers definitely influence cancers. That's why people inherit them through their family, and sometimes genetic anomalies cause cancer. So those genetic markers are very accurate, and she wants to live a long life and raise her children and love her husband. So you know, I don't blame her.
I feel like whatever. I mean, having cancer, it's just so. It can be a scary diagnosis, and I think that I don't think you can judge or. People need to do what makes them feel safe. No, and
you famously did a concert at Carnegie Hall, and you took your shirt off and sort of did half the concert there. It was not at Carnegie Hall.
Wasn't it at Carnegie Hall? Thank you. Yes.
Really? Practice, practice, practice. That's how you get there.
Yeah. You know, let's just say it was at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. Where was it? It was the Improv, lower in the
it was
basement.
At Town Hall in New York. But yeah, I took my shirt off.
Were you trying to say something to the other people in the audience, like this is a public statement of?
Well, it was certainly not a private statement. I took my shirt off because, you know, it dawned on me how taboo it is to be topless, whether you have a double mastectomy or not as a woman. And I was thinking how, you know, I had cancer, and so that's a big deal. But having scars is not. And all it is that my body healed. My skin healed. I don't have nipples. I just have 2 scars across my chest. But it's really, if I had a scar on my face, I would hope nobody would ask me to wear a bag over my head, you know? And so it's really, it's just a very simple thing. It's not a big deal. And the audience told me that, you know, when I took my shirt off, their head exploded, and then 10 seconds later, they completely forgot and were listening to my stand-up. And so that's what I was hoping, is for people to talk about body issues, cancer, talk about my comedy, you know, talk about it all.
Now, Kareem, is it tougher? Oh, sorry, yes, please.
Yeah, let's not talk over that.
You can't, that's gold. You can't. Kareem, is it different for not just a man, but for an athlete? You know, it's sort of this virility, this machismo, to say, you know, I'm not well. Is it a tougher thing to make public?
No, I don't think so. I think that being able to raise awareness, it made me feel good. As soon as I announced about my cancer, people started talking to me. A really good friend, if you've ever been to the Staples Center, the announcer, Lawrence Tanter, he hadn't been to the doctor in 10 years.
Wow.
And I said, I'm going to kill you. Cancer isn't going to, I'm going to kill you unless you get to the doctor, because you have to go get regular checkups. So, you know, just being able to raise consciousness among people that I cared about, and then it went far beyond that. People that I don't know started to react with me, and it made me feel good about taking that chance, because, you know, at first I didn't know if I wanted to do that, but it's helped people get an idea of how to take care of themselves. So I think I've done a good thing, and I'm glad I did it.
Have we done enough about cancer so far? I know we have all the campaigns, we talk about it a lot, but I remember when President Bush said we were going to have no more cancer in a few generations. Bill Clinton said it'll just be a zodiac sign pretty soon, and yet we still have cancer, and we don't really have a lot of advancement. We see advances with HIV, even Ebola we saw quick advancements. With cancer, it doesn't seem like we're moving the ball as much as we'd hoped.
We are moving the ball now. I was just involved a couple of weeks ago. I went to D.C. The targeted medicine campaign is working, and let's say where there were only a couple of cancers that we could kind of cope with.
Yeah.
Now that they're starting to understand the genetic component, they're able to treat and identify more cancers, and they're finding ways to cure more cancers as they move along. There's starting to be some movement now, and it's giving a lot of people hope. So President Obama is trying to get Congress to fund cancer research, and it's actually a bipartisan campaign. It's not just the Democrats. It's you know, Republicans too want to see some change here.
Well, even with breast cancer, I mean, that's one of the more treatable and more treatable cancers that around.
I mean, we look at it, and I think maybe that's part of it, is we have this monolithic thing, you know, cancer, like it's one thing, but there's about 200 cancers, right? There's 200 different kinds of cancers.
Right.
So is that part of the problem? It's like, it's thing that's, I mean, it's touched every one of us in some way. Has it become just maybe in some ways we sort of take it for granted, oh, that's always going to be there?
For the longest time we did, but now that this progress is happening, there's a change. I think there's a sea change now.
Yeah. That's great. So let's go to our third story that we want to talk about here, which was this one. You might remember this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Trevor Noah. He was named the new host of The Daily Show, and within 24 hours, he had some tweets that were uncovered. People felt that they were misogynistic or anti-Semitic, or perhaps just not funny. Now, this is an area.
Shocked.
What's that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is an area that we care a lot about here on the HuffPost Show. It's something that we're trying to do. Comedy that pushes the limits, comedy that goes too far. You know, we also saw Lena Dunham. This, you know, just at the end of last week, she wrote a piece for The New Yorker in which it was a quiz. You had to figure out, was it her dog or a Jewish boyfriend? She got a lot of pushback for that. So Tig, as a comedian, can you go too far? Is there such a thing as comedy that goes too far?
You're going to go too far with anybody. Anybody's going to go too far for somebody. I mean, I'm not and wasn't typically a boundary-pushing comedian. I think that when I had cancer and did my show, and then took my shirt off at another show. You know, to some people, that's too much. And even on my podcast this week, cancer came up, and our guest was like, "Now that's a topic that's not funny. There's no humor there." And it's like,
does everybody have that thing that's not funny to them? Like, laugh at everything except that one thing.
I think that is true, but It's going to be out there, and you make the decision if you're going to buy the ticket, go to the show, support the network, the host, and if you decide not, you should go spend your time promoting what you think is fantastic and put more energy into that, I think.
Yeah. When people are, react because someone might have gone in their opinion too far, they'll probably push back. So, it just has to be a two-way street where sometimes you may push too far, but you have to understand when people push back that you've gone too far and lighten up a little bit.
Does it matter what race you are? Like, for example...
Of course it does.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, like he's 25% Jewish, and some of his comments were considered to be anti-Semitic. If he's... What?
Well, the question is, how Jewish do you have to be? Do you have to be Jackie Mason Jewish? Very few people are Jackie Mason.
Nobody's that Jewish, yeah. But
Lena Dunham's half Jewish. Trevor Noah's 25% Jewish.
Right.
I mean, how black do you have to be Chris Rock to do his kind of bits?
That's what I
mean, is that a component? You can only rag on your own?
There are traditions, I think, that really dominate there, and then people blow them up. So, people like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy like that, they all had their little turn at blowing up some of these traditions and stereotypes. I think that's good, though. We go back and forth with that.
But I also think you have to consider people's intentions and the delivery and the... I think, I've seen plenty of comedians, different races, sexuality, gender, make fun of others, and in a way that, the intention is not...
It's a difference when you're sharing rather than putting somebody down, laughing at them. Sometimes people laugh at themselves,
I mean,
in ways that you can share.
Being gay, sitting in shows and watching other people make jokes, if they're not gay, it doesn't outrage me. It's either like, oh, well, that wasn't funny, like it was a poorly written joke. Yeah. I'm not,
Is funny the ultimate defense? If you're really funny, does that excuse everything? Is hackery the worst form of...
Absolutely. I think that's what I mean, is the intention and the delivery. It's like why it's all in the delivery.
Nothing worse than being mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think...
Kareem's going to be doing the touring company of Whiplash, right? Good job. The two worst words. Have you seen that with
the drummer?
Yeah, the drummer. Wow. Mediocre. Two worst words.
Exactly. No, I mean, what should the penalty be, right? If we agree that somebody did something bad, say because I think from Don Imus forward, the rule is just fire them, right? If somebody does something we find objectionable, everybody calls for their head. Should that be the rule?
I don't know. I think it depends on the person's motivation. Some people say things and aren't thinking, and they get slapped around very publicly and quickly, and then they learn something. It all depends on the person and just who they are.
I think that
how they handle
people
it.
can speak out of place, and I also think that people can change. I've seen so many people change. I know I've changed, and so I think if people make mistakes, you have to kind of look at what their intentions are and what their history is. And
we're all, a lot better than we were 15 years ago.
Even 5 years. It's amazing how far we've come in 5 years, and you move things to a more evolved or politically correct place or accepting, and you think back. Well, it's because people have made these mistakes and you've had these discussions and you've been allowed to change. We're all changing.
I think it kind of gets to what you're saying. That's the heart of satire for me is, are you making the comedy to have a point? Are you trying to make a point, or are you just, doing it for the sake of humor? Is there something, bigger at stake? We saw Jonathan Swift classically wrote, we should cook clean and eat Irish children. He was obviously not suggesting that we actually do that. So does that change it for you if you're trying to make a larger point?
Well, I mean, when I took my shirt off, I was trying to make a point, but I also thought it was very silly to take my shirt off and then do stand-up about airports. There was just a silliness that I'm doing it for the joke, but I also am making a point in doing that, and I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because that's one of the things that we aspire to here is we want to do humor that has a point, that maybe leaves a bit of a bruise. One of our inspirations on the show was a show that's about 50 years old, over 50 years old, called That Was the Week That Was. It was a show that was hosted by David Frost, and it featured a blend of music, conversation, and frequently very pointed commentary.
Yeah, and while we were doing some research on the show, we came across an example from it that really took us aback. It was 1963, and a civil rights protester had marched from Alabama to Jackson, Mississippi, and was shot dead on the side of the road. A few days later, That Was the Week That Was featured a brutally satiric number dealing with that very topic. Here's a short clip.
I wanna go back to Mississippi, where the scent of blossoms kiss the evening breeze, where the Mississippi mud kinda mingles with the blood of the niggers who are hanging from the branches of the trees. Mississippi is the state you've got to choose, where we hate all the darkies and the Catholics and the Jews, where we welcome any man if he's white and strong and belongs to the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, an uppity nigger going to cast his vote. I took that uppity nigger and I cut his goddamn throat. Uppity, uppity.
Wow, I know, it's pretty edgy.
Edgy.
And right, well, in 1963, it was super edgy, but I mean, even for 2015, that's a lot. I mean, you wouldn't see that now on most TV.
Well, here's the point, Mark. You would never have to do a video like that today, would you?
Ferguson.
A 19-year-old Detroit woman was fatally shot.
The shooting death of a young black man on the street.
Epidemic of police violence.
There was another shooting of an unarmed black man.
Fatally shot by police holding a pellet gun.
The NYPD chokehold
and the killing of black teenagers.
Hesitate to shoot you bravely in the back, so carry me home.
Sanford, Florida.
Staten Island.
Suburban Detroit.
Downtown LA.
Hammond, Indiana.
South Carolina.
St. Louis.
Cleveland.
Fatal police shooting of unarmed teenagers.
Killing of Michael Brown.
There will be no indictment filed
that day.
So here's the thing about that video. When we first were planning to do it, we were going to end it with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. And then we had to keep doing it again and again and again. We ended up doing like 10 versions because we had to add Michael Brown. We had to add
Tamir Rice,
Eric Gardner.
Yes.
You know, and it was amazing how that kept going on and on and on.
Now, of course, people are going to say, well, this isn't 1963 anymore. Things have changed. Things are better. And no one doubts that this isn't 1963, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, how do you make sense of where we are now and where we've come?
I think it has a lot to do with the tradition of our criminal justice system and the whole idea, even though the Dred Scott decision is no longer law,
yeah,
it had the effect that it had on the criminal justice system is still in effect.
Absolutely.
So when black people get shot like that, the cops can manipulate the history of our criminal justice system so that these people did not have any right to life. And the fact that the cop felt that he had to take their life is just too bad, and they move on. There's never any prosecution. I think it's very ironic, like a lot of these things happen in places outside of the traditional South.
Yeah.
But the cases that happen in the South at least were prosecuted. And outside of the South, they're not even prosecuted in the North and in the West.
I run into that a lot, just being, I was born in Mississippi, and when people ask, you know, oh, what was that? I was born in Jackson, and people, what was that like? must have been horrible. And I travel all over the country, all over the world, and racism is everywhere. I mean, truly everywhere. And people that have come down the hardest on Mississippi, when I've inquired, oh, where are you from? Illinois. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and then you hear the story, oh, and actually my grandmother was really racist. And I'm like, well, why are you pointing the finger like it's just the Deep South?
Yeah, there's enough racism to go around.
Yeah, plenty. Well, listen, guys, I thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being part of this panel. Everybody, thank Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tig Notaro. Kareem's new book is Stealing the Game. Thank you much. Tig Notaro's going on tour. Be sure to go to tignotaro.com to find out where she's going to be coming to your town. Thank you guys so much.
Pleasure.
Over this way. All right. Now, I hope you all have been paying attention because it is now time for
the HuffPost News Quiz.
Oh, yeah, quiz time.
That's right. We are now joined by two members of the HuffPost community who are eager to test their knowledge of the news.
Who do we got here, Mark?
Who is this? Who are you, sir? This is Jonathan Jackson here on the left. And on the right, we have Katie Von Brunt from New Jersey. Jonathan's from New York. Thank you all for joining us.
How you guys doing?
Thank you.
Great.
Is this the most exciting day of your lives?
Obviously,
Absolutely.
yes.
Is this the most exciting day of your day?
Jonathan, I can't tell you. Jonathan's like, what the fuck? How did I get here?
No, that's not true. I'm an amp, man.
All right.
Okay, that's his happy face.
Okay,
all right.
That's Jonathan's happy face, so give him some love. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you each, we're going to ask you a series of questions that are connected to the news, and each right answer is worth a point, and whoever gets the most points at the end is going to get a lot of very cool HuffPost swag, but more importantly,
you get to call yourself the HuffPost News Champion.
Wow.
You know how important that is?
Look,
she's a lot more
she's raising the
She's a
roof.
lot hyper than Jonathan.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. Damn it, Jonathan.
Bring it, Jonathan.
You know how hard it was to get a black guy on for a news quiz?
Yeah.
You better have a smile or something, man.
I've been fighting him.
Right.
Jonathan, because of that, we're going to you first. Here's the first question.
All right.
Okay. A woman in Cleveland was arrested this week after she stabbed her boyfriend for doing which of the following? Was it A, repeatedly failing to put down the toilet seat, B, eating the entire jar of salsa, C, binge-watching season 3 of House of Cards without her, or D, calling her by her mother's name in bed?
Ooh.
Not good.
Wow, those are all, wow. That's really punishable. I'm going to go with D, though.
Which one?
I feel like you can't really, I'm going to go with D. I don't think you can come back.
D, calling his girlfriend by his mother's name in bed? Oh, I'm sorry, Jonathan. No. The answer was actually eating the entire jar of salsa. And in case you were wondering, this season of House of Cards, it really wasn't worth killing anybody over anyway.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No.
All right, Katie, Jonathan's embarrassed me. Are you ready to answer this question, Katie?
Yes, I am so ready.
All right, Katie, you can take the lead right now because it's still nothing. Okay. What did Indiana Governor Mike Pence offer as proof that he's not anti-gay and in fact, quote, abhors discrimination? Was it A, one of his best friends has a gay brother? Was it B, he tips minorities the same amount as whites?
Yeah, very nice of him.
Was it C, Martin Luther King is one of his heroes? Or was it D, he thought Ellen DeGeneres was a fine Oscar host?
God, I don't even know if this guy could actually prove that he's not, but maybe C?
So she thinks it's Martin
you think
Luther
it's C?
King being the hero.
Well, let's check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's check.
I don't support discrimination against gays or lesbians or anyone else. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the heroes of my youth. He's one of my heroes to this day.
You are correct.
Wow, she is correct, yes. Martin Luther King was, in fact, one of his heroes, to which the ghost of Dr. King replied, "Hey, asshole, nowhere in my dream did I throw you a PR lifeline."
Yeah. All right, 1-0, Katie, and you are now going to Jonathan.
It's tied up 1-1.
No, 1-0.
Excuse me, I'm trying to give him a point.
But the black guy giving the black guy,
yes.
that is unbelievable.
Come on, that's your affirmative
I warned
action.
you about this. You're always doing that.
This is why you,
This is why
exactly.
we can't have black people on the show.
Exactly. Jonathan. This is an easy one, Jonathan. Don't fuck this up. All right.
Okay.
A woman was killed this week when her husband followed his car's GPS instructions to do which of the following? Was it A, drive through the front doors of a 7-Eleven? B, drive off a bridge? C, make a U-turn on a freeway exit ramp? Or D, take a shortcut through a public swimming pool?
I'm going to go with B.
He says
Yes!
yes!
That is correct.
Yes!
Drive off a bridge.
I'm out here.
Yeah.
I'm back.
That is right. They drove off of a bridge. And, of course, had they used Waze, they could have driven off that bridge a full 2 minutes faster.
All right. So it's 1-1.
Yes.
And we're going to Katie now. Okay, Katie, here you go. Which of the following was an actual attempt by a politician at an April Fool's joke? Was it Dick Cheney announcing that he'd be advising Jeb Bush's campaign? B, Newt Gingrich tweeting that he supports President Obama's foreign policy? C, John Kerry pretending to walk away from the Iran negotiating table? Or D, Governor Asa Hutchinson starting to sign Arkansas's anti-gay religious freedom bill, then shouting, "April Fools"?
Oh my God.
You can do this.
I'm gonna say, yeah, right. I'm gonna say B.
Yes.
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 Oh, right on.
And in fact, it was Newt Gingrich, although it took him less than a minute to totally panic and tweet, "I was just kidding. I don't really like Obama."
All right, so it's 2-1. Technically, Jonathan, you've lost, but I'm going to do something special for you. I'm going to give a 1.5. Can I do this, Roy?
Yeah.
A 1.5 pointer.
Wait, but no, this is going to be a jump ball, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if he gets this right, he can still win.
Theoretically.
Yes.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to read these, and after we read the 4, you both, this is open for either of you. If you know the answer, say your name. That's our cheap-ass version of a buzzer.
Right. Just say your name, and that's your buzzer.
Okay, here we go. There was an uproar in a Utah town this week when the owner of a local restaurant did what to the bull statue on his roof? Did he A, adorn it with lipstick and eyeshadow, B, give it a Hitler mustache, C, remove its genitals, or D, sign it up to run for city council?
Katie.
Katie?
I want to say B. Gave it Hitler mustache.
No, it's actually, it removed its genitals.
No, Jonathan, I could have answered that.
No, we're going to call it a tie.
No,
because
Jonathan wins. Jonathan, Jonathan,
Anyway,
race war. What were you going to say, bro?
Race war.
Bro, what were you going to say?
Okay, here's what we're going to do.
He said he was going to say B. He said, wait, which one? Say C, damn it!
The general.
Yes.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give them both swag, but Katie's the champion, okay? Let's give him a big round of applause. All right. Champion of the world.
Fine. We can't get nowhere
We'll see
in
you
the country.
next week.
Good job, y'all.
Awesome. All right.
All right. That was HuffPost News Quiz.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of that. We're not going to keep fighting.
No, we're not.
We're going to make up.
We will.
Okay.
We will. Up.
Yes.
All right.
Not make out.
Yes. Harassment. All right.
Okay.
Before we finish, we got to go, but before we finish, we want to perform a little public service for you. We're going to do our part to make your weekend just a little bit better.
That's right. We know that all but the most antisocial, the most antisocial of you are going to be going to some sort of gathering this weekend. You're going to go to a dinner party or a cocktail party or just shoot the shit with your friends. So we want to help ensure that you are well prepared and able to be part of any conversation.
Right. So we're going to do a little quick lightning round of party prep. We've checked out the Huffington Post, and we are going to give you everything you need to talk about the hottest stories of the weekend.
All right. Here is the facts. We have done the reading, and we have actually done the thinking, so you don't have to. You got your pencils ready? Here we go. First headline, deal or no deal. Yesterday, President Obama announced the framework of a nuclear agreement with Iran. Predictably, the Republicans are skeptical. So, Mark, if I'm at a party and that comes up, what's my take?
Oh, this is easy. You say, actually, Republicans have a valid point here. They're saying just because you reach a deal with the government, that doesn't mean some crazy hardline faction won't just ignore it. And who knows about hardline crazies better than America? See?
Exactly.
Then you win.
That's good.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yes. This is what we talk about at parties.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Next headline. Going Clear is the most watched HBO doc in 9 years. Now, if that comes up at a party, what do I say?
Okay, here's what you say. You say, yes, it was the most watched according to Nielsen, but it was actually the least watched documentary in 9 years according to the E-meter. Yeah. I would tell you more, but in the time it took me to make that joke, Scientology has already sued the both of us.
Yes, just you.
Yeah. Okay. Next story that you need to take for. Headline, megastars launch new music streaming service. owned by artists including Jay-Z, Rihanna, Beyonce, and Kanye West. Tidal says we no longer have to feel guilty when streaming music. Mark, what's my take?
Oh, I definitely got this one. All right, you say, finally, a streaming service that makes sure every time I play a song by some struggling band, Kanye gets a cut.
Yeah, that'll work.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right, I got one more for you.
Okay.
Cross-dressing gate crashers. A pair of men wearing women's clothes were shot after crashing a stolen SUV into NSA headquarters.
Oh, yeah, I got this one. Here's what you say. You know, this seems to be a case of really bad luck for the men and a case of really good luck for anyone worried that Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart have run out of movies ideas. Yeah. Cross-dressing gate catchers coming soon to
Exactly.
yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. So those were our takes, and we'd love to hear any of yours. So just tweet them to us with the hashtag HuffPostShowTakes. And we really do want this to be a two-way conversation. It's a core part of the HuffPost DNA. So please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe to your YouTube channel, and most importantly, swipe right on Tinder.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, let us know what you like. Let us know what you didn't like. Let us know who you want to be our next guest. And let us know who you want to be the next Dickopedia Dick.
That's right. And be sure to tune in next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, or catch us forever on demand.
Ever.
Okay, so please join us in thanking Senator Elizabeth Warren, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, King Notaro, Mitch McConnell, L. Ron Hubbard, and all the other newsmakers who made this such an interesting week. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click here for more videos.
And make sure to catch new episodes Friday at 9 p.m. on HuffingtonPost.com.